Just what can we expect from a brand new looking Tottenham this season? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it's another one of these videos and another mini-series I'm doing in preparation for the new season, talking about various clubs, putting them under the microscope, and obviously just trying to discuss the season that was last campaign, their pre-season preparations, and of course the expectations, demands and potential that this forthcoming season may have to offer certain clubs. We've talked about Arsenal, Aston Villa, Liverpool, Manchester City and Manchester United in recent days. Well, today is the turn of Tottenham Hotspur, a brand new looking Tottenham Hotspur for the new season. Just what can we expect from Ange Postecoglou's side going forward in this campaign? We're going to be discussing all of that stuff in regards to Tottenham, everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you all to get involved in that comment section as well. Do get involved. Do talk to me about what you think and feel about Tottenham Hotspur. Show your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. Will make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Tottenham Hotspur. Let's talk Ange Postecoglou and everything else in between in regards to last season, pre-season, and the season to come. Last season was a season to forget. Last season was a season to forget. And it was a strange season as well for Tottenham because going into it, I felt a lot of Spurs fans had a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, a lot of excitement about what that potential future could hold. We normally see that with Spurs. We normally go through this kind of routine annually, seasonally, in which the transfer window gives them a bit of hope, a bit of optimism. Obviously, last season there was the prospect of having Antonio Conte's first full season in charge of Tottenham, so there was that to look forward to as well, a serial winner. They had the world-class manager in place. They had a team that was seemingly building for the most part under the Italian. Things were looking up for Spurs, and a lot of Spurs fans were optimistic and hopeful about the future. And then, after what was touted as being the best possible start that Tottenham have ever had to a domestic campaign, things went downhill and nosedived pretty quickly. Following a few poor performances, things went downhill, and after the World Cup, it didn't get any better. And suddenly, things were starting to go wrong, things were turning sour. Conte was fed up. He was absolutely fuming. He was calling out the club and certain players in press conferences and to the media. And eventually, he left. Eventually, he got sacked. Eventually, his second in command, so to speak, got sacked as well. And before long, Tottenham were left with Ryan Mason. It was actually incredible that Tottenham managed to finish 8th place, given how it seemed that their season had took that much of a nosedive that they didn't seem to win a game for a long, long time. It was actually incredible that they managed to finish 8th. But that is exactly where they ended up. No European football, an 8th place finish, and even Harry Kane, who finished on 30 goals that season, couldn't carry Tottenham on his back enough for them to achieve European football, losing out to Aston Villa, I think, merely on goal difference. His season individually was phenomenal. If it wasn't for a certain Erling Haaland, the Norwegian goal-scoring machine, of course, for Manchester City, his goal-scoring season may have gone a little bit more in the spotlight, but of course, Haaland overshadowed it by breaking numerous goal-scoring records, constant goal-scoring records, and becoming the highest goal-scorer in a single Premier League season. Harry Kane's performances, though, should not have gone under the radar. He was phenomenal all season, carried Tottenham on his back. Son Heung-min was poor for the most part, not living up to the expectation and obviously the previous standards that he had set himself. Even Richarlison The £50 million signing in the summer was extremely poor. He only scored 1 goal throughout the entire season. Kulusevski had an injury hit season, never really got back after that, and there were other performances within that team as well in which they were just poor. They were just extremely poor, and it was actually, like I say, overall incredible that Spurs managed to finish 8th when they did, despite the fact it was a disastrous season. A few results here and there which were pretty good and were pretty, well fought, well played and everything. But for the most part, some dreadful performances and some absolutely terrible results and some extremely poor football being played at the time, which is the base of which Tottenham pride themselves on. Good football. Maybe, though, the future may look up in terms of that one aspect, though. Although last season was another trophyless season as well, Tottenham fans seemingly, for the most part, or some real Tottenham fans, realistic ones, have seemingly reset their sights. And in resetting their sights, it seems to be a bit more of a realistic ambition for this season. Pre-season has obviously seen the new arrival of a new manager in Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, with a massive uphill task ahead of him, and with the main goal of at least attempting to try and win Tottenham a trophy, the first trophy that they would have won in over 15 years now. He has a massive uphill task ahead of him. A massive clear out in the squad that needed to happen this summer. Some new incomings that needed to happen. And of course, there was the ever-growing, or regrowing, should I say, Harry Kane situation, which obviously is seemingly nowhere near closer to actually being concluded and finalised yet. Although Bayern Munich seem pretty confident that they will achieve and gain their top target in the England striker going forward throughout the remainder of this transfer window. Postecoglou comes in, and immediately right off the bat, it's not the biggest or shiniest name out there, but it's a realistic kind of managerial appointment that Tottenham could have hoped for. Not to say he's terrible, not to say he's bad, as what many Tottenham fans seem to claim I was saying earlier on when he was actually appointed. His brand of football is pretty entertaining. His brand of football is pretty entertaining and is pretty eye-catching. And I think that is what Tottenham fans are going to get on side with most. And I think you've already started to see in pre-season little bits and pieces of his ideology and his tactical nuance and, of course, his philosophy being sprinkled into this Tottenham side little by little, obviously, as the players get used to him, as he gets used to the players, and as the new additions to the squad also start to bed in. That is going to be the baseline to what Tottenham are going to achieve this season, in my opinion. A much more entertaining brand of football, a different style of play to obviously what we've seen in recent years under the likes of Jose Mourinho and, of course, Antonio Conte. As far as the newcomings go for, they got a new goalkeeper. That was the baseline, again, of the new additions that Postecoglou wanted to bring in. They brought in Vicario. Seems a solid enough goalkeeper. Highly raved about in Italy, so it seems a fairly decent choice. Obviously, a cheaper option to David Raya, and many people pointed that out. But just because it's a cheaper price doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a worse off goalkeeper. Obviously, only time will tell on this transfer signing. You go forward. James Maddison in for 40 million, in my opinion, an absolute bargain. I'm a little bit surprised other Premier League teams were not in for this guy. A guy who is pretty much consistent in terms of his goals and assists per season. Obviously has been head and shoulders above the rest in what has been a dwindling and deteriorating Leicester City side in recent years that obviously needed a lot of change in that team. Never really got it, but now they're down in the Championship, they're starting to get it. Maddison obviously was going to always leave Leicester in the Championship and join a bigger club, a Premier League club, and that is exactly what happened. Like I say, for 40 million, as the upfront figure, it seems, I'm a little bit surprised that other teams were not in on this. I'm surprised that certain other Premier League teams were not looking at Maddison as a suitable addition to their squad. But their loss is possibly Tottenham's game, and I think that although the downside of having Maddison is he doesn't maybe work hard enough in comparison to other players in the midfield, I think you can cover for that slight weakness of his, because I think overall his goals and his assists are going to outweigh the kind of work rate that he should be showing. And if you can try and masquerade that, and if you can try and cover that up with the other players that you have around him, then it's only going to benefit the team in the long run, especially with the output that Maddison could potentially provide. And it went a little bit quiet. Then it went a little bit quiet in terms of the transfer front, but it's already looking like it's going to be a busy final month to the transfer window for Spurs with a few incomings and outgoings. Centre-backs obviously are needed. Ashley Phillips has just come in, a youngster, highly raved about from Blackburn, of course. So he looks like he could be a good addition. I haven't seen too much of him, admittedly. But from the little bits that I have seen, from what I've read, from what I've heard and heard about and everything, he does look like a player that maybe for the here and now is going to be a few years away from maybe making a real impact in that senior squad, but could definitely be a mainstay in that Tottenham side for years to come. Like I say, highly raved about, big potential it seems. We'll have to wait and see how his development goes over time. There's the Mickey van der Ven transfer, which seems to be edging ever closer to being finalised. He looks like a solid addition. I've talked about him in previous videos and live streams as well. He seems like he'll be a very good fit for this Ange Postecoglou system. If it is going to be high press, high intensity, and obviously very entertaining, and obviously it's going to be a very high line that Tottenham are going to play, his pace is going to be vital in terms of recovery. So he could very well fit in very well with this Tottenham squad and with Postecoglou's system going forward. The question I have on this, and obviously there are going to be a few other transfers that may happen and seem to be happening with Spurs, as a lot of activity seems to be taking place, is why wasn't this done sooner? That's what I would be asking if I was a Tottenham fan. Why wasn't this all done sooner? Because this should have been done sooner. This should have been the backing that Postecoglou should have received right off the bat. And does it all tie in with this Harry Kane situation? Obviously, like I say, we know that obviously Kane has been subject to a move away from Spurs, away from Tottenham this summer. Obviously, if he does go, he's going to fetch in a big transfer fee. So, is this a case of Tottenham know more about the Harry Kane situation than what we do? Are they expecting to sell Harry Kane this summer for a big price, and they're using that Harry Kane transfer before they've received it? Or is this a case of Daniel Levy and obviously Enoch pulling their finger out finally and actually opening their checkbook on backing Postecoglou since coming in? Remember, this is a squad that is in desperate need of surgery. This was a side that it was in desperate need of freshening up. This was a side that was in desperate need of some serious investment going into it. And Tottenham waited a long time. Tottenham got a few deals over the line early on initially, and then everything went quiet. It was a typical kind of Tottenham way, I guess. We've seen it time and time again before, where they get a few quick signings in. Okay, you could call them easy signings, you could call them simple signings, I guess, but simple can mean effective as well. So it's not all bad in terms of that aspect. But then everything goes quiet for a while after that. That's exactly what was happening with Tottenham so far. And now they're rushing around. Remember, this new season, at the time of recording, is about 4 or 5 days away from restarting again. And Tottenham are just going out and now trying to find new additions to add to their squad. This should have happened weeks ago. This should have happened maybe a couple of months ago. This should have happened days ago. This should happen way before now in order for them to bed in them new signings into their squad, into their pre-season preparations for the brand new season to come. I'm just a bit surprised it's taking this long. But again, is that another indication as to why the Harry Kane deal is dragging out? Is that an indication as to where Harry Kane's future is going? Is this an indication of where the money is coming from that Harry Kane deal? Obviously, only time will tell again. In regards to the season that is to come in terms of the potential, getting back into some form of European football has to be the overall goal for Spurs. That has to be the overall goal for Spurs. Obviously, if they can win a trophy, that would obviously be the icing on the cake, but obviously take it step by step. Postecoglou's first and debut season for not only Tottenham, but in the Premier League as well, is going to be met with a lot of eyes on him and on Spurs. It's going to be interesting to see if he can handle the expectation. It's going to be interesting to see if he can handle the pressure of the biggest team in his career and the biggest team that he's managed. Well, with all due respect to Spurs, obviously, to Celtic, sorry, with obviously being in a bigger league, shall we say. It's going to be interesting to see if he can handle that pressure. So there's going to be a lot of eyes and a lot of interest in him and simultaneously in the club. Will his new signings bed in? Will those new signings be good signings? Will they actually work out well? Only time will tell on that again. And as far as expectations go, look, a trophy is going to obviously be huge if they can win something. If they can win the League Cup, if they can win the FA Cup, huge. They're obviously not going to win the Premier League, but a domestic cup, a League Cup is certainly a possibility because the League Cup is very much open to a whole host of teams, I think. Tottenham certainly could be one of them if they play their cards right, if they get maybe the look of the draw in terms of, the draws. It certainly could be open to them, but at the bare minimum, bare minimum, it's got to be getting back into European football of some kind. Even if it is the Europa Conference League, it might be the start of something, and it might be a case of winning some sort of trophy just to instill some sort of winning mentality. Maybe Postecoglou can build something at Spurs that will build and build and build for years to come. He's got to be back though. He's got to be given time. He's got to be given patience by the fans. But you do fear that with Tottenham, there is a growing optimism. There is a growing hope. And we've seen it time and time again, like I said at the top of this video, that every time there is a growing inspiration at Tottenham, every time there is a growing hope, a growing case of excitement and optimism, it's seemingly put out very, very quickly. It's seemingly put out very, very quickly. And I do fear that that may be the case yet again. If it goes horribly wrong. If it goes right, a top 6 finish, back in the top 6, seems to be the bare minimum or around about where I think Spurs may finish this season. But it's going to be a tough ask. And if they do get rid of Harry Kane, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. Like, okay, they may miss him scoring 30 goals, but it's not as if they're going to be losing all 30 goals. You know, they may miss about 10 or maybe even 15 goals, but the rest of those goals will be spread around the other players in that team. You know, maybe Son can rediscover his form of seasons gone by. Maybe even Richarlison, you know, as much as I don't like and I don't rate Richarlison that highly, maybe even he can pop up with a few more goals this season. Maybe Kulusevski on the right-hand side can get back to the kind of form he was showing when he first arrived at Tottenham. Maybe James Maddison, like I say, can pop up with a few more goals here and there. Obviously playing alongside certain other players that may be seen as being better than the ones at Leicester. Or maybe you can get goals from elsewhere as well. So They're not going to be losing all 30 goals. I think they could be a more well-rounded team without Harry Kane. Obviously, they lose that star power of Kane, but maybe they could be a bit more well-rounded in certain other areas and certain other aspects of the team. And like I say, with Postecoglou's system, I think as the baseline of this and as the bare minimum, at least I think Tottenham are going to be playing some good football. As far as the defence goes, if they can bed in quickly, it might save Tottenham a little bit, but I actually do think that if it takes a while to obviously get a better understanding between not only just the back four but the goalkeeper as well, Tottenham could be very entertaining to watch next season. For the aspect of there's going to be a lot of goals in Tottenham games. They'll score a few, they'll concede a few. There could be a very entertaining season for Spurs to watch from the outside looking in. And that's why they are definitely ones to watch, in my opinion, this campaign. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Tottenham this season? What do you think is going to be going on at Tottenham this campaign? Do you see Postecoglou being a success? Do you think he's going to be just another manager in the wheel at Tottenham? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on anything to do with Spurs? I'd love to hear them all down below. I'd love to read them all down below in that comment section. Your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up. Enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new. I want to see more content like this. Both things always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it will be. Cheers, guys. Have a good day.